Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll be starting soon. What's up, Mr. Baxter? Smidge in the studio. Welcome, Arcade Crusaders. Hot.
Do you have to remind me that every time now?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is episode 68 of PinTech Live. The mysterious score rule issue may be solved today.
Maybe.
Right? Cross your fingers. We have, as you can see right here, the stylish GrumpyEMDoctor, Mr. Volansky, here to continue with us on this voyage to fixing this Jack-in-the-Box issue.
I was hoping people wouldn't know who I was in case we don't get to the bottom of this.
I think it suits you. It looks good.
Sunglasses. It's great. So anyway, Kyle, why don't we start off real quick, because we do have a lot to cover and to try to get to the bottom of this. Tell everyone what the problem was, kind of a recap, and where we are now.
Okay, and I have something to add after that too. Issue was, I thought we had a really simple score reel or a score motor issue. So we had David come on, teach us how to read schematics. And we tried to tackle the issue, and we quickly realized, oh, it's not a score reel issue, or a score motor issue. So last week we decided, well, it's kind of acting like a bad coil, even though it seems a little weird, but let's try putting a new coil in it. So we spent last week putting a new coil in and kind of did a janky overview of a Gottlieb score reel. Very quickly for us to find that putting a new coil in did not make any difference. So David very helpfully just said, hey, I'll get on the camera. Let's look at this. So we spent another 30, 40 minutes jumpering things and trying to take as much of the game out of the equation to isolate the issue to just the score reel. And we've come to a couple conclusions, or maybe one conclusion, that maybe we have a failing coil stop. The failing coil stop can be a possibility because we are dealing with AC coils, and apparently an AC coil stop, or I'm sorry, not AC coils, but an AC driven system. And apparently the coils stops are very unique to resist magnetism, etc. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. We have a few theories, but at this point, when so many things have failed us, we're kind of at the point where we just need to try everything one step at a time to see what ends up fixing this problem. So what do you think, David? Was that a good overview?
I think it's a good overview. I can't recall if I heard you say we did already replace the coil.
Yes.
That seemed really likely, but we're basically down to, we have a new coil, and we have essentially attached the power rails to the coil, and we still see the problem. So there ought to be no switches involved or anything other than a score reel. So I'm expecting us to sort of continue from there today, to be testing this using jumpers instead of in a game until we can get it to happen.
Yes.
Get it to stop happening.
We might take this thing apart a few times.
Yeah, we may end up taking it apart, and maybe not even putting it all back together. In fact, I wanted you, when you started taking it apart, when you've got it to where the wiper disc is out of the way and the score reel is taken off and the little ratchet wheel and spring under it are taken off, I actually want to try powering it then to see if we can see the failure, because that's going to give us about half of it not to have to put together every time we want to try one part, put it together, try another part, put it together. And if somehow it's not failing, then we have a whole new set of questions, because I've not imagined how the score reel could be causing this problem. But let's not assume we're going to get to that, because I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. So
got this.
There's okay. So let me say what the reason the coil stop is. Hey, can you? Yeah, this camera. This is a wacky coil stop. This might be too bright. Hold on.
Oh yeah, I can focus.
We've got three very clear. We've got four components to this, right? Not including the nut. Let me remove the nut so we can kind of examine what this OEM Gottlieb coil stop looks like. I did procure these from Steve Young. These are also what we sell on our website. We have three different materials, right? We've got whatever this silver material is here. We've got this black core, and then if you can see between there, you've got some copper.
Yeah.
Copper is a non-ferrous material. I'm going to assume that this might be aluminum, which is also non-ferrous, but maybe not. And then we've got like a steel core slug there. I think that steel core is also, what this threaded piece. So we've got this, steel core with this copper, whether it's a solid piece or discs or something. And then this silver bit is kind of pressed up in, and that encases this and turns it into a coil stop. Then we have this insulator disc, right? I think this disc is here to help reduce the magnetism or whatever effects of magnetism between, the solenoid and the frame. So there are four kind of, bits to that coil stop. There's another style coil stop that floats around too. These are another one that we sell and are sold, but it is just one large ferrous piece or a steel core with these two brass insulating pieces, which, essentially do the same job as what, this plastic bit is. I want to try both of them, but there's two styles floating around there. We sell these ones also. Sometimes they're intermixed. But yeah.
Kyle, I would say the first one you showed, that copper piece, is essential for a coil stop in an AC powered game, because while the AC power is turning on and off 60 times it hits off 120 times per second. The copper in the coil stop sort of fills the magnetic field in between those lulls. When that other coil stop, I wouldn't expect it to do that. So it might work. I don't know if it'll solve this problem, but there would be a buzz. I mean, I would say people should use the right coil stop, and you want the one with the copper slug for AC.
It seems to be. I mean, if we'll see. I think that is an aftermarket, a cheaper replacement to a more complicated piece. So I kind of do want to do some field testing to see which one, how they both hold up. But instead of doing the testing now while we're trying to fix a problem to get this game back out to be enjoyed by the masses, we're going to use the OEM style piece. Another theory that was brought up to me by my old boss, Chris, the smartest man in the world, he brought up the fact that 10-point, 1-point score reels is really common for these to get locked on, right? Not normally, but generally, your hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, these aren't driven by switches on the playfield, where this guy, can be driven by a rebound rubber switch or something like that. And they do have a tendency to get stuck sometimes. So if this were to get stuck on, and the coil were to melt and fail, right? It gets very hot. He said, hey, I had this happen once where I was having an issue that was loosely related to what's going on with you, and this thing melted, right? It's a plastic bit. So someone had gone in, replaced the coil, and got the thing working again, but decades or years down the line, this melted. No one ever checked the stop. And this melted guy caused all sorts of issues. So I have my fingers really crossed that we're going to take this apart, put this stop in, and that'll be the solution to the problem. But we are prepared.
Let's make sure we make note of whether it's there and intact when we take the old coil stop out.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, because not only do the 10s and 1s position have a tendency to be a lot easier for them to get stuck on, this is also the first player reel, so this thing has done its fair share of stepping compared to the fourth player or the third player reel. So, the likelihood of other worn out parts is also a lot higher, and we'll find out. As these things age, I think we'll be finding all sorts of things starting to wear out that were not traditionally things that wore out, right? So, another thing I wanted to talk about is, I said this last week, it's not worth memorizing the order of these switches for the run out and the rollover and the I'm not at zero, whatever, the score reel switches. And I looked at them, but I think in my flusteredness, my flustered state of it not working 100% and me kind of rushing, I really didn't pay attention to what I was looking to, and I started using muscle memory to adjust the switches. And it just so happens that this is a middle-of-the-road game where they use different switch combinations to do different things. And the most common, not most common, I'm sorry, the one that I'm most used to working on goes in a very specific order. This game does not do that. And even though I looked, I wasn't paying attention. So use your brain, use your eyes, don't get flustered, pay attention to what you're looking at so you don't make mistakes live on the internet. We weren't letting, the game wasn't resetting. As soon as we turned the stream off, I went in, I adjusted everything, and it worked fine. I just wasn't paying attention to what I should have been paying attention to. So.
Was that the, are you referring to the switch diagram?
Yep.
That we saw later?
Yeah.
I want to pull that up.
Yeah, pull it up, but again, I think David and I will both stress that it's not worth memorizing that, and it's not worth memorizing what you're going to see.
And in fact, I think this game doesn't appear in all the options that are on that sheet.
Oh, right.
I get, Kyle, if I remember right, the 9 switch is in the middle.
Yeah.
Of the 3.
Yep.
Which is an unusual thing you don't see often. I'm not sure what era it covers. As particularly with score reels, there's always another one in the game. I mean, you look at one that's working.
Yep.
And actually, if we had, I couldn't always see it good over the screen, but if I look at the motion. There's something that's going to happen when you get to 9, and that's going to show you what should be the 9 switch. Or we look at the schematic, and you look at the wire colors, and you figure out which switch is which and when they should be opening and closing. Yeah, so that's
I posted a link in the chat too, so you guys can see the full one. But it was really interesting that someone broke it down like this.
Yeah. So what I think, again, it's like. It's not worth memorizing. It's definitely worth referring to other things that are working. But what we're kind of deciphering here is, these switches need to be pushed out, right? Can you pull that back up?
Oh yeah.
The switches need to be pushed in a certain order to, dictate what's going on, right? So the game knows that when it's at 9, when that switch is closed, it knows that. Or in the circuitry that will pulse the next score reel, so you get the effect of, adding another digit to your score, right? And the way that these ones are set up, that switch is in the middle of the stack. But to get that final switch closed, the one furthest on the outside, it needs to push past that and close one more switch. And I think Gottlieb's engineers realized it's like, yeah, that's not super efficient, and we could solve problems by changing the order. So if you look on the right side, when it's at 9, the bottom right corner, the top 2 switches are closed. So it closes the middle one, and then at 9 it closes the last one. Instead of at 9 it closes you get what I'm saying. Anyways, my brain was wired to work on the later stuff because that's a lot of the time mostly what I have worked on. So I just used, I used my memory, which was wrong. So I learned something. You don't learn things unless you make mistakes, right? So.
Yeah. Helped us learn a little bit more too.
Uh-oh, this TV is weird. I'm trying to get my TV on so I can read the chat, but I think it's just the power cord slipped out. 1 second. Technical difficulty.
You don't need to read the chat. You need to focus on getting this score reel issue fixed.
I need to fix anything.
He sensed the chat was going off on a tangent talking about beer, and it got him excited, and he wanted to stop everything he was doing to read it.
I enjoy beer.
I know, that's why you wanted to read the chat.
Okay, I think it's working.
So Colin asked, so the stacks only change on 0, 1, and 9 for the switches?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so the game needs to know when all the reels are at 0, right? So that's one state. The game needs to know when it's not at 0, so it can continue moving the score reel so it can get to 0. And the game needs to know when it's on 9 to add points to the next reel up,
Mr.
right?
O.
So, yeah, I don't know.
All right. So, what's next?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we should
Ready
start
to
taking it
dive in?
apart, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
unless you want to demonstrate one more time the failure mode, though I would even say we could go ahead and get the score reel partially disassembled and then apply the power rails the way I had discussed to the coil.
Yeah, let's
And
get that.
we'll see the problem again just to make sure everyone, if they haven't seen the past few streams,
And
can see it.
thankfully, with the power of the internet, if you are watching this sometime in the future, you can just go back and watch and see what it's doing. But the score reel is not stepping cleanly. When you pull the relay in, the coil should stay locked on until the relay is released. Here it's fluttering and going blah, 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 blah. That's the best rendition I can give.
That was good.
Thank you.
I've been calling it machine gunning, but I'm realizing we could say it's chicken clucking.
Yeah, chicken clucking.
It does sound like a...
That's like a turkey, though, right?
Oh, that's true. Yes, it's a turkey. It's a turkey.
We've got the most turkey-esque score
fix that
reel.
in post, right?
So I'm not going to go into the crazy details of disassembling this again. Again, that's for another video, or you can kind of watch the previous video to get the 2-cent version of how to do it. But I will work a little slow so it can be captured on the camera. Do we need more light? I'm kind of standing right in the light, aren't I? Here.
We don't need more light, but if you need more light, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then I will adjust accordingly.
I do because I'm blind, so.
And I'm gonna switch to close up in just a second.
Okay, we have the score reel disassembled. This guy should stay captive. I'm not. Well, I'll leave it in there. Anywho, so this is where we're at.
Yeah, so I'm thinking if we could apply the voltage at this point, we should be able to see it still failing.
Okay.
And
what were we calling this earlier, David? This is the ratcheter?
Ratcheter?
The ratcheter. That's the new technical term. This is the ratcheter.
Yeah, the ratcheter. Yeah, we may give that a technical term. And you know what? Since one of our theories is the spring, maybe before you even do all the other stuff, we can try messing with the spring first, if you have the replacement spring possible.
If I were to get that replacement spring, I'd need to take it from, I could take it out of that other used decagon unit. I mean,
yeah, how easy is it to reach it through the, oh, you can't really reach it through the score reel of another.
I probably
Does
could.
it feel wrong?
No, that's the thing I'm saying is like this thing is in good shape. It doesn't feel wrong.
Yeah.
It really feels like a good spring. I mean, I'm not.
Let's leave it on for this next test.
Okay.
Leave it on there. We'll do the voltage and.
I'm not a spring engineer, but I mean,
I gotta remember, where did we snag the voltage from?
Well, I mean, at this point, since we've kind of realized that we don't have a problem, right, with most of the circuitry, we could probably just use the relay, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
If that sounds okay. I'm gonna start a game.
Oh, it's not gonna reset properly if it wasn't already at 0. Did it? I guess it was.
Yeah, well, it resets. So let's see, I'll add 1,000 points really quick. Yeah, it's good. It's going. So,
all right.
Let's see if we, spring, that's important.
Yeah.
Spring.
Though I had thought of us trying to do it, actually, if this fails, we could try taking the spring off and just hold it where gravity is gonna have the ratcheter come back out.
Sure.
And see what it does.
That makes sense. Okay, I'm going to hold the N relay on. The N relay is the 10-point relay.
Machine gunning.
We've got the fail state.
Yeah.
So let's try
Mr.
this. I mean,
Welcome.
giggles again. We'll remove the spring and we'll let gravity kind of do the job of the spring.
Yeah, I mean, even if this works, it's not the problem solved because
it works, but it doesn't work,
that
right?
is really buzzy. Yeah, well, we go to the next step, which requires a solder iron, unfortunately, for this design.
Heat it up.
Yeah, I should have gotten that prepared. First, I will turn the game off really quick. I'll get my soldering iron out and start letting it warm up. Ugh.
In the dark in there.
So this is a I think if I was fighting through this problem like on my own time and not spreading it out 2 hours at a time over the past month, like this is kind of a cathartic problem. This is kind of my favorite pinball problem because you really get to it's a headache inducer, right? But you get to have your fingers and hands all up in all this stuff, and when you start changing parts, you really do learn something. I think that's, again, why I really like fixing EM pinball machines, because it's a lot more hands-on, as opposed to amorphous transistor or board problems or a chip doing something weird. This is all physicality, and I really enjoy that. If you have a high tolerance for pain, EM pinball is for you.
Looking in the chat, M. Kunzelman is asking a question about verified voltage on the coil. So we have applied voltage to the coil directly from a reliable power source. We didn't actually go direct to the transformer, but we used a source that worked well on the other score reels, and on this score reel we got that behavior. So we also know that the 10-point relay for the other players works fine. So we have isolated it to the score reel, and this was more about the test of the reel itself. So the end of stroke switch is not involved. All the switches to get there are not involved. The relay itself is not involved. It really, at this point, because we know they're not involved, we're not using the jumper because it's easier to not use it. But we have isolated all that previously.
I'm going to unplug my soldering iron.
And there was a question about the end of stroke switch.
Yeah.
What's that, Kyle?
Oh, I'm just saying I was unplugging my soldering iron because hot irons in precarious places don't mix well. So.
Okay. So the end of stroke switch would tell the relay to turn off. Hey, my wig came off. All right. The end of stroke switch, I didn't do that. The end of stroke switch tells the relay that it can release. And what we've been doing, so it doesn't cut the power to the relay. Well, I guess it does cut the power to the relay, but we're holding the relay on by hand. I mean, at this point, we could just be using a jumper to put power on the coil. We know that it fails that way. So not doing it that way now, I think, was just kind of a convenience thing. I mean, I like all the ideas. There may still be something we didn't think of, but yeah, we did put jumpers up, and we had voltage going directly to the coil, and it behaved just like that. So I'll let Kyle focus on this, but in order to get to all these mechanisms, I mean, at this point we have to we're going to change the coil stop, but to get to all this stuff, you do have to unsolder the coil to get it enough out of the way, even just to get to the part that he's at now. Clearly, having to do the coil stop, you got to get the coil out of the way.
Yeah. This thing is
so it's a little hard to see how beat up it is. And really, the failure could be internal in that coil stop. If there are sort of copper rings or something in there, if those rings are cracked, we wouldn't necessarily see it, but they would not create the right magnetic field to fill the gaps in the field created by the AC voltage.
Let's see what we get. I mean, it is beat. It's beat to crap. The steel slug is mushrooming, etc.
Okay, I'm looking forward to you getting it closer to the camera when it's removed. Don't fight it now, but.
Oh God, what did I just do?
Yeah, sorry, I'm using some channel lock pliers to hold the actual stop in place while I remove the nut.
I use a vice grip, but it probably doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I'll use a vice grip for
away.
reinstallation. It'll be gentler.
Yeah, the one you're throwing away, you're throwing it away.
Okay, so
how's the plastic look?
We don't have a melted plastic insulator. That is still very there. The coil stop itself, I mean, you can't even see the copper just because it is so worn.
Can you hold it up to the new one so we can see the
Yeah, definitely.
kind of before and after?
I mean, I want to.
Yeah, that is really beat.
Look at the. I mean, look at the there definitely is a. Oops, sorry. There's definitely an edge on it. It's kind of hard to see, but it's flared out. It's mushroomed.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, we also have lost.
Yeah.
We've lost maybe like a 100th.
Come down to us.
How does the end of the plunger look? Does it look like it's going to be okay with a new?
Yeah, it looks okay. You know what though? I mean, the problem is it with these coil stops with that design, right? They do become wavy, right? It has the imprinted image of the shape of the old coil stop.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to cause an issue, but you know, here's the other thing, right? While I did not bring a new plunger because I forgot, I did bring this old Decagon unit. This is an actual Decagon unit because it's got the flat sides. But there is another plunger in here, right? So when we need to start poaching things, we can move from either here or another part in the game. Normally, it's good practice to replace the plunger and the stop at the same time. But today's not normal. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is a plunger that shouldn't normally be held on. I mean, when you're doing this with a flipper, which could often be held on, it having a not good match is going to make a lot of buzzing noise.
Sure.
Where we might not even notice it here, or if we hear a little something, you can put the plunger in later. I just want to see if the machine gunning goes away.
For
so
sure.
Now you're putting on the new coil stop, but everything else is the same.
Yeah. I'm also going to use some a small vice grip to hold the head of the coil stop, as opposed to those big old channel locks, just to try not to mar up the surface like really, really bad. But we'll see. I might be splitting hairs, honestly.
Don't scratch it.
It really doesn't. It's not that big of a deal, but it allows for a finer level of precision.
Nice. And old school EMs asked, do the switch leaves still have proper tension? 'Cause some can break in the stack and cause it to be loose. That was something y'all checked last week too, right?
It wasn't.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think the switches at this point are all okay. All the other players are working, and really, we've eliminated all switches from the equation.
Well, I mean, I think maybe what he was asking was mostly about the end of stroke switches, and I think like I see where he's coming from, and I think maybe like just due diligence, we should disassemble that switch stack just to look. But let's put this back together first and see what we get. We'll do one thing at a time.
And I was also thinking, unless your iron is hot, when you put the coil back in, we could just use alligator jumpers to wire it up.
That's a good point. Yeah. No, I unplugged the coil. I unplugged the iron, so we could do this. So this is the coil that I took out. I was expecting maybe to see it melted, that plastic bit, but it does have evidence of being stuck on for a little while. But this coil also looks really, really original, like the rest of them. I don't know if this one's ever burnt out, but.
Oh, actually, it's a good point. We should put the replacement coil in for now and test it. And if it's working, we can put the original coil back in.
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm glad you still had that.
You know me. I'm like Chris. I'm a pack rat. I don't throw anything away.
Chris is actually pretty good at throwing things away.
He is now.
Yeah, I keep all this stuff. The people at the Pinball Museum in Alameda, we keep all this old stuff, and it's just always in our way. We need to learn to get rid of it, but
Well, yeah,
you just
okay, yeah.
never
I should have
know
used
when you're
Michael
gonna
as an
need it.
example, not Chris.
yeah.
Speaking of which, Michael, if you're here, I'm sorry I haven't responded to your text, which
Aw.
so gently said, "Does Kyle hate Mike?" No. Kyle's just very forgetful and busy. I'm sorry.
I even spoke with Michael about that Monday.
Aw.
He said,
Kyle,
"Yeah,
why are you ghosting people?
Kyle hates me now. He won't even respond to my texts
Oh.
anymore."
Kyle's exhausted and forgets to look at his phone. I have a new rule. When I get home from work, I put my phone down in another room where I'm not at. And it's actually really nice. To not be staring at my phone as often as I used to.
Yeah.
But everyone misses you on Discord.
I know, I miss them too. Okay, let's get this back together. I'm going to try to use speed without talking so we can try to, if this doesn't fix it, we'll have many iterations of things to do. If this does fix it right away, we can digitally high five, and then maybe we can, I can scoot the bench out, and we could rebuild that score reel to make it work and function nicely, that decagon unit. And I can have David's expert advice.
Ha.
He's like,
Your wig is still just cracking me up. I just look back and like, this rock star over here.
I'm gonna pinch this so it pinches the coil nicely, and then I'm gonna tighten one screw.
I think it makes me look a little bit like Bruce Volansky. Do people know who he is?
I feel like Jim.
When they did
Bruce,
when they did the new Hollywood squares, he was usually the middle square. I think he looks like a big Muppet.
A big Muppet.
And I think he's mostly a comedy writer, and he's very funny.
If he had pink hair.
But yeah, if he dyed his hair pink, it would be this. This is.
That's so funny.
This really hard to find number 3 screw.
This is exciting. I have a good feeling.
You
What?
could actually leave those switches not done, Kyle,
Oh, well,
for now.
it's halfway on now. I'm leaving it.
Okay.
Okay, let me go get some alligator clips out of my box.
Oh, Kurt Cobain. There you go.
Yeah, that came up earlier, and I don't see it as much as Bruce, but yeah.
My alligator clips are such a mess in my box. It always makes me mad. And I'm like, oh, I need to clean those. And then I never do anything about it. Okay.
Looking at the chat, Captain Retro, if you need help and you're not already aware of the EM Online Clinic, we could give a little plug to that.
Oh yeah, Captain Retro, you should definitely join in on the Fun with Pinball repair clinic. Let me pull up that link.
So this is an irregularly scheduled live
Here's the link
session. They do
coming in
not
right
get
now.
recorded or anything, where technicians are on. It's sort of a Zoom session. We use a different platform, but you've got technicians there and people who are pre-registered with game problems and people who are pre-registered to watch and learn
It's
along.
really cool.
And they tend to fall on a Friday or a Saturday. They're, like I said, they're called irregularly, and it's sort of every 3 or 4 weeks. But I gotta say, October is sort of filling up with pinball shows, it seems. I don't know when we're gonna have another session. People are getting busy. This was during COVID when everyone was, so many people were just stuck at home. Like we would have, it wasn't that we had them all the time, but we had lots of technicians available. Sometimes there are fewer technicians now, so.
Yeah, for sure. And Mark will be at Pinball Expo with a big exhibit too, right?
I'll take your word for that. I was talking to him. The dates were just announced for California Extreme, and it was something that he and I had talked about. He's not sure if he's going to be able to be at that one yet, but maybe, I don't know if that'll be something we talk about today.
Nice.
People should, I mean, people who know California
Yeah,
Extreme,
if
it's
you
time
guys
to
are
go
in
and
that
look
area.
at the website again.
Yep. October 16th to the 17th is posted on their website at the DoubleTree Hilton.
The greatest
Kyle
pinball
said
show
this was
in
their
the country.
original hotel venue, right, Kyle?
I think so, right?
For California.
Is it the-
Extreme.
I don't know.
Well, I think there's been 3 or maybe 4 venues, but I went to the first one. The first California Extreme I went to was at the other hotel, and now it's always been at this hotel. I'm going to power it or start a game really quick. Okay. So, we've got a new coil stop. Let's hold the relay on, and it works. That was it.
Wait, so but was it the new coil or the coil stop?
The coil stop.
So
There you go.
can
We
go ahead
all
and put
just
the
learned
old coil back
something.
in?
I've never, ever had this come up before personally, but we've just all learned something really important. I think I'm going to take this to the office, and I'm going to use equipment and try to disassemble it and destroy it and see what it looks like on the inside.
Yeah, don't try to cut it in half because we'll lose the evidence. You need to sort of remove the outside.
Put it
But I
closer
will
to the
say,
camera.
now that we know the game is working again, I can leave the witness protection program.
Oh my God.
He's back.
Oh man. Wow.
Welcome back.
I guess we still have some reassembly to do and some soldering to do, but that's
Yeah.
That's interesting, man. I mean,
I
like,
need to put that question mark in the title.
I just wish that I understood the actual electrical properties, right? Because I mean, this is a physics problem now as to why. We've solved why the issue is happening, but why does it make that much of a difference? I think that, again, a lot of that's probably way over my pay grade, but it's really fascinating that could cause said issue, you know?
Right. That one little piece.
So if I could be distracted for a while, I can go find a posting that was done this morning on a Facebook group that points to a part of funwithpinball.com.
Oh,
or
cool.
is it a .org? I don't know. Funwithpinball. That explains this sort of filling in the magnetic field stuff.
Yeah.
So
nice. Yeah.
I'll be a little
that, and
distracted
we'll drop
while
it
I
in the
find
link.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, post it in the chat and then link it to us somehow because I'd like to read that. I think I get it, right? I think that's the thing is like with a lot of this stuff that comes down to physics and the way the world works, I have enough of a grasp on it, but it's only enough to like get myself in trouble, not to actually like really understand what's going on. And this is something I'd really like to learn the effects of.
Are you gonna change? Are you gonna put back the old coil in there though?
No.
Oh, I thought you were.
But then, what if it's the old coil that was actually the issue?
Well, I mean, we could, but I don't think that's worth doing just because there's a new coil in there already. I think this is a fine coil, right? We know that the issue is now gone with that new coil stop, so the issue
That's
is either the
saving batteries that are already like, you know, they don't even work in your remote anymore, and
no, but I'll have something I can do. You know what we'll do? No. What we'll do is if we take that other score, I'm going to move this game. I'm going to pull the bench out. I'm going to light the bench. We're going to take apart the other game, and we will power that old coil in that score reel. I'm leaving this thing the way it is because it works. I'm not screwing with it.
If we remember, we'll try to keep you accountable for that.
I think it's pretty safe. I think we can still conclude it was the coil stop.
Yeah.
If the old coil would work, the coil stop caused this beyond a buzzing. I mean, it was just not functioning right. I guess we could also say, I guess the spring's okay.
Yeah, I would say the spring's okay. I think Daniel, I think was the one who brought that up first. I think was on a good path, but I think the thing like, oh, something slipped when I put that together, so now I get to go back. I think it was safe to say like, when you fondle enough springs, you can kind of figure out what is bad and what isn't bad.
Kyle?
Yeah.
Kyle, since something slipped, is this the time for me to really explain to you what I think, that my little trick?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think I felt it slip when I took it apart, though.
Getting to see your hands' delayed, so it'll keep us going slow. So
I think it slipped when I was moving the disc over. The whole thing came up, but you know what? Let's learn that when we have it on the bench.
Okay, the one on the bench.
Yeah, let's do that because it'll be really fun to have a example of a Gottlieb score reel out. And then what I'm going to do with that Gottlieb score reel is I'm actually going to build a test jig, and I want to see. I don't know. I want to kind of put it on the bench and watch it work. I want to see those other coil stops we have work and see if they're inferior or not.
Do you have another coil stop that you just put in new? Old school Yam was seeing if we could see another comparison between the.
Yeah, I have another new one. I have one in my toolbox. I could get it out, or my parts
let's just
box.
hold both side by side so you can really see the difference.
Oh, and I need to tighten down the switch stack as well.
Is a World Fair for 1300 refurbished a good first pin?
I mean, it depends on if you really like World's Fair. You're going to get bored of that game really fast, but...
You don't know that.
I don't know. I think, like, my philosophy...
I remember the gameplay, but I also don't like to comment on, you know,
it's opinion-based.
What's a bad first pin? Do you just want to play it? Do you want to learn how to work on them?
I don't think there's such thing as I had this argument with coworkers at the work office today.
Pins.
There's really no such thing as bad pinball, but I think like don't just like jump
pinball people.
Don't jump for a game just because it's cheap, because you know, if you're someone who likes these deep games with rules that you can't understand, right? Like the new Stern games give you a lot of or newer pinball gives you a lot of depth and like replayability, but you got to remember World's Fair was meant to go in a, you know, a laundromat or something and be entertained, to entertain people 10 cents at a time, right? So it's a nice game, but you know, the older games definitely can get boring a little quicker, depending on your attention span.
Stupak almost got a shack attack.
That being said, my favorite game is Xenon, and I play it like every day, and that's a really simple, boring game. So, I don't know.
And if that were was that your first pin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what was it?
So
well,
that was your first pin,
my first pinball game was Creature from the Black Lagoon, but the first pinball game that I ever like really went through was Xenon.
Nice.
I mean, if your first pin is the perfect pin for you, then it's only downhill from there.
Yeah. Don't let me turn you off from getting World's Fair, because that's a really cool game.
Maybe the right answer for is it a good first pin is it's only true if it's not the best pin for you.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Is this a good first wife? Wait, no, that's not a good comparison.
Yeah, you should get South Park first.
No. We don't talk about that game on this stream. I think we had I got really good at this spiel, and it's like, you know, and it's pretty true, but when people would come into our shop and be like, well, I played Firepower a ton at my student union, and I love Firepower, or, you know, and Firepower is a variable game, right? It's either Firepower or Black Knight, or Captain Fantastic, or Wizard, or whatever. Insert whatever game was at your student union in 1979. And I want it, right? I just started playing pinball here, and I really liked X game, but I really want the Firepower I used to play. And I think that's the thing, is when you're going to spend that kind of money for a game at your house, right, you're going to get really damn good at whatever game you have in your living room. You got to make sure, if you only have room for one game, like, you got to make sure it's going to be the right game that really keeps your attention, you know?
Right.
So I always tell people, well, you know, unless you're really a crazy EM fanatic, like, your first game shouldn't be the game you remember loving, unless that's really the only pinball game you want to have. You know, an EM or a Firepower or a Black Knight is a great second game, because then you can switch off. You'll never get bored, right? Like, I don't know.
Ooh, old school
I know
EM's first game was a domino.
Yeah, I think there's some EM lovers who would disagree.
Oh, I agree. I mean, honestly, I could own all EMs, but if I just had Jack in the Box, it would get pretty old after a month or so, you know? But if I had Jack in the Box and Central Park, or Jack in the Box and Fire Queen or something like that, you know, once one game gets boring, you could step over to the next one, just like you would at the arcade. You know, Firepower would get real damn boring, but you could step over and play something else.
It's fun to have at least one pin from every era. Like that would make a nice, solid, small collection.
I think part of our answer needs to be to admit that people who have more than one pinball machine can't answer the question of, is this the one pinball machine I should buy?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I come from a place of, of privilege with pinball, so.
I owned one pinball machine for several decades before I had more. And it was broken for a lot of that time, so I don't know if that counts. But, I mean, it was Sinbad. I love the game. I never got tired of playing it.
Spy Hunter.
So, you know, it was the right game for me to have one game. But I don't know if that's going to be the right game for someone else. And I had the early solid state version. It wasn't even an EM. It kind of plays like an EM.
It's a great game.
And it had chimes.
It's awesome, yeah.
I want to get 50 points.
The reason it didn't work for many of the years I owned it was because it wasn't an EM. And in particular, like electronics had failed on it that were not fixable or replaceable until later.
Oh, right.
So maybe an EM is a great idea because the parts are basic.
Oh, yes, it's so sweet. It scores 50 points very reliably and perfectly. I am tickled pink now.
He's pink.
That almost 100% of the problems with this game are now fixed, and it can go live on location or be ready for Pinball League sometime.
Cool.
Okay, let me reset the set. It's up to you guys to keep everyone entertained while I try to get my bench unburied from behind Hotline. Give me a second.
Getting set up.
I'm not sure what we're doing.
So I think now we're going to go to the bench. His bench is just behind a lot of stuff. So he's going to wheel it around, and then we're going to disassemble that.
I think I'm going to move the game instead of the rotisserie. And then if you want to help me move a camera, I think what we'll do is I'm going to put I'll probably put the desk right here. Maybe can you move Jack in the Box back a little?
Everyone that we do have our Thursday free shipping for orders over $99 domestic shipping code, and $10 off international shipping for orders over $99. And the code today is PT-Cletus. It just felt like a good one to throw out there for this week.
Oh, hold on. Thanks, Steve. All right, hold on. Almost there. Doing a set redesign.
If the problem had turned out to be the spring,
we did need transition.
Cletus would have been great.
Well, we didn't know what was going to happen.
We could have blown Cletus if it was the spring. But
good old
it
Cletus.
Just turned out to be Where. I think part of what I forgot. So Kyle, you had that game on location before. It had worked previously in your possession. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was perfect when I bought it from Michael.
So that was
after I fixed
kind
it.
of something I forgot, because that removes the spring as an option. If you get a game of unknown background and something's not working, you should suspect everything because you don't know what Cletus did.
Poor Cletus.
If the game was previously working and then it stopped working, well, it's harder to blame Cletus.
Well, I remember, I mean, like, to give the whole boring history and not getting too hard into it, this is how that's going to be. It's really cramped in here since Hotline is still in pieces.
Yeah, why?
Well, because I don't have time to work on it. I have to do my real job.
This is your real job, Kyle.
I wish this was my real job. Just sitting in front of the camera and fixing pinball machines for you guys.
Yeah.
If you want it to be my real job, please PayPal me a bunch of money so I can take a temporary hiatus from doing my job at Marco, and then we can do this full time for a while.
This is your job at Marco, though.
On Thursdays between 2 and 3 p.m. Or 3 and 5 p.m. I actually have been doing some really exciting stuff at the office. I'm working on getting Gottlieb chime units available, so we'll be able to sell brand new Gottlieb chime units. I'm also working on Bally and Williams chime units, so we'll have like brand new full assemblies, and I think that's really, really cool. I've been working with David Yop.
Nice.
If you guys
the
are on
Yops
Facebook,
cool.
and we are working on getting the amazing Yopsicle LED sticks in stock. And we can be a vendor for him. I helped him with a couple additions that I wanted changed on this thing.
And what does the Yopsicle do again?
This is a good replacement for a socket and an LED bulb, especially on old Bally pinball machines with those lazy lamp sockets. So you can replace your socket and lamp with one board. So you solder the bus wire on here and your signal wire here, and then you've got a feature lamp. I've worked with David to get this where we elongated the hole, so you've got some wiggle room for long reach sockets, and we've also installed a resistor, so you can use this with an original lamp board. He designed these to work with Altec boards, but for people who like original hardware like me, having it universal is really handy. So
That's awesome. We should do a product spotlight on it when it's ready.
yeah, we definitely will. I'm going to do a bunch of marketing for him, so then we can give him the bear hug of death by not being able to keep his stuff in stock.
Yeah, that was really cool. So
Okay,
Captain Retro, we are in the Marco TV studio, so all the games you see are a collection of Marco games and our other technicians that work for Marco.
No, they're mostly my games and Mark's games.
There's other games there.
The only one you can see might be 8-Ball, and that's Steve, friend of the show, Steve Burtock's game.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all my crap, because I don't have enough room to keep it at home.
Yeah, Planets is Nancy's game.
Planets is Nancy's game. That's going to be a game that we work on soon. I think we're going to take a break from EM stuff, because I think this only speaks to a small group of people.
Isn't Planets an EM?
Yeah, but we'll work on that again one day or soon.
Okay.
Baywatch is next.
We've just been waiting for over a year for Baywatch.
All right, I'll go
Did
buy
you
a
get
color
your
DMD for it.
Color DMD yet?
No. Do I look rich?
Yes.
Oh. Put your glasses on.
I know.
I bought a Gottlieb high hand, so we could work on high hand. Or no, hot hand. Wait,
Hot hand.
is it high hand or hot hand? Hot hand is the Stern game, right?
High hand is
sounds
the
right.
Yeah.
Hot hands keep you
16
warm
drop
in a winter.
targets.
Yeah, I bought high hand.
16. Oh, that's
So I think one of the next EMs, I really want to do a full EM thing, right? Where we start with a non-working game and get a game working. And that is one where we might need to call David in as well. When I bought it,
That's gonna be like a 4-month endeavor.
it might not be bad. The thing is it was working when I bought it in Allentown, and then it stopped working halfway through the show. So it's probably going to be something simple, but
A wire popped off.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Cletus strikes again.
okay.
Captain Retro asked, any word on System 11 MPU restocks? Is Rotten Dog no longer making them?
I don't think we ever stocked System 11 MPUs, but that would be a nice thing to stock one day. Do I have enough light? Ah, look at all that light.
Yeah,
Oh,
and if you could grab the handheld too and drop it on your
yes, ma'am.
table, we can have another fun angle.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Yay.
So I know that I'm going to need my grease. I don't have my PBR grease on me, so we are going to use the axle grease again.
Ooh,
I'm going to need this, and I think I have all my tools. Okay.
16 episodes of High Hand. See, Mitch knows.
Hey, I'm
Mitch knows
down.
where
We
this
could
is
stretch it
going.
out. There's a lot of good content there. It just depends on how patient people are.
Komodo, I need to step
Yes.
away for a minute or two.
Sure, no problem.
I'll be listening in.
Cool.
I can handle this
Sounds
part.
good.
We'll just need David
That's a
for the reassembly.
dirty score reel. Wow. I thought it was like the color temperature on this camera, but it's really just.
No, it's very
well,
dirty.
Maybe it's a little bit of that too. Oh god.
No, it's dirty. It's really grody. This is a actual decagon unit. It is from a late 60s game. I think it's from Scuba. It doesn't matter. They're pretty much all, they're always all the same. But yeah, this is extreme because this hasn't been in a game for a long time. We've got, right, this plunger comes in and it does not want to come back out. That is due to a lot of things. But this will be, this is just a really, like, exacerbated case of dirty, awful score reel. But we can definitely get this thing spinning and doing its job again. So this will be a better tutorial than how we did it last week where I was doing it in the game. It's much easier to be able to work on it on the bench, but
yeah, this is
unfortunately you cannot do that in your game unless you want to cut the wiring harness, which I will come to your house and personally slap you if you ever do.
Cut it?
No.
Why would you just unsolder it, right?
No. You can't really do that. Well, you can, but it's easier just to do it while it's hanging there than doing that. So
if you were going to do anything, you would maybe take the plate off and then you could remove the switches and you can take the thing away from the game. But no, don't cut the wires.
Just don't do that ever.
That's insane.
I will come and slap you with the score reel if you cut
this
your...
was cut out of a parts game that could no longer be used anymore. I'm going to trust that to be the case.
Yeah, well, unfortunately my coworker Bill does not really like EMs, so this could have been maliciously removed from a possibly save... No, I'm just kidding. I think Bill would have not ruined a perfectly good pinball machine to get this thing out. If you're listening, Bill. So the first step to getting your score reel apart is removing the E-clip and this very, very thin, very unique wave washer. Do not lose this. This is a very, very special piece. The spacing between all of this is very odd. If you do not have this or you have to try to substitute it for something else, please do not lose this. Lose this all day long. You can get these everywhere, but you can't get that. The best way to remove an E-clip is not to pry and bend it and make it all cattywampus, because I have to use safe for radio language. But the best way, I didn't even get that on very straight, would be to use like a rotating motion to try to push it away from the shaft. So I like to use like a small flathead and always put your finger on the other side where it's going to spring away from, and twist your screwdriver to encourage it to slide off the groove. It's a lot easier than people make it to be. But it also is hard when these are hanging in a precarious situation, not on your bench. So you need a nice good a wide-tipped flat blade screwdriver to get the rest of the score reel apart. We're going to remove the two screws that hold the circuit board down. And now we can peel this away. I would suggest you hold the score reel in place when you peel this away because this is under spring tension. It's going to want to pop this way. So we'll peel this back and away. This is probably really grody, so I'm going to let it go and it's going to do nothing. But look what we see here. We've got a really dirty circuit board.
It looks cool though.
Hopefully that cleans up nicely, but that corrosion definitely...
Oh yeah, you can see the corrosion. Put it up even closer to the camera. I can zoom in on it. At first it just looked like a reflection, but now I see what you're talking about.
That corrosion,
yeah. Wow,
while not being super nice and smooth, right, I mean, that inhibits clean rotation as well. So we're going to want to clean all that off.
And a lot of times, it's a little hard for the camera to catch it. I mean, your finger on it shows you it's no longer smooth. There's maybe old grease that's kind of gotten gummy. So it's sort of the opposite of grease. It becomes tacky.
Yep.
So yeah, those get very nasty.
And due to the way, I mean, this is also poor storage. I mean, usually you don't see these things like as corroded as this, like in your game, but it's not impossible. But this thing is definitely just really crunchy, right? I'm gonna pull the plunger in and it won't step forward. So we've got a lot of.
We should say you wouldn't find a wiper that you wouldn't find a wiper board. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Wiper board in your game that looks that bad unless the game hasn't been working for a long time already.
And that's definitely the case, right? I mean, there's a lot of electromechanical pinball machines that have not been touched in decades.
Yeah.
Right? That's what people are finding now, because all the good ones have been taken, and now people are digging things out of barns and garbage cans and, you know.
You know, I think there's one other phenomenon that happens is someone thinks, now it's no one who's listening to this, but someone thinks the game is still working because they can turn it on and the flippers go. You know, they turn it on, the flippers go, they play, but the score wheels haven't moved in decades, and they're thinking, well, I can still enjoy my game. I've heard of games that work, or I've heard of a game that, well, it worked the last time we were using it, and when I get to the game, I mean, it's missing coils. There's no way the coil evaporated. So they were either playing it with a missing coil and just realizing that missing component wasn't a big factor.
Yeah.
Or I don't think they were lying. So it's
I remember. I like it when people don't realize what their games are supposed to do when you go and work on them for someone. There was a guy in the Oakland Hills, and I went to go work on his Lord of the Rings that he's owned since it was new, or maybe very close to new. You know, maybe he bought it from a friend, or operator right after it was done making money, and he never knew that there was a magnet in the ring. Are you familiar with that game, David?
Which game is it?
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
So in Lord of the Rings, the way you start your mode is do something, and then you shoot the ball up a center ramp, and when it goes up the ramp, there's a plastic like rendition of the ring in the back, and there's a magnet inside, and it holds the ball in the ring.
Okay, I'm thinking similar to what's in Tales from the Arabian Nights.
Yeah, sure.
There's a ring
exactly.
Like a donut, the ball goes through and it'll stop the ball.
But the cool thing on Lord of the Rings is at that point, once you start your mode, it actually like pulses the magnet in a way and it sucks it through the back of the game. It's really amazing. Anyways, you know, the dude had no idea that was a thing. You know, as long as he's owned it for, almost 20 years, the ball just went through that ramp and it started a mode. He was like, holy crap, I had no idea that, and it's just like, how do you, man, it's sad, Anyways, that's what we're here for, to fix stuff. So once you get the circuit board off, we've got a few pieces to keep track of. We've got this retaining guy. We've got the actual wiper that makes contact with the circuit board. This does go on in only one position. You can force it on the wrong way, but don't do that. We'll go over the position once we have all the parts off, but for now we can remove it. The actual drum will come right up and put that aside. We've got the ratchet that goes on the ratcheter. That's the new technical term. We've got the spring that keeps the actual drum under tension. And generally that's all that's going to come off. This piece down here is not attached to this plate. It will pop up, but a lot of the time they keep themselves on there. I'm not going to worry about it right now. As you can see now, it steps very freely. Without having all the tension from the ratchet and the wheel and the contact board, this thing moves, but you can hear it's not very smooth. I can feel it, right? It doesn't feel good. This spring is very rusty. I'm going to pull it and see if it feels like the other one. It does. It's got a bit of give right here, and then once it starts to stretch out, it gets a lot stiffer. So even though it's gross, I'm going to call this spring fine. The next step, I assume we should just take it all the way apart, David?
I'm thinking you might want to check for dry grease under the ratcheter.
Absolutely.
Especially since the coil is already unsoldered.
Yes.
Well, so to speak. Yeah.
This is where I'm excited to learn your way. of doing this because generally I will apply grease underneath the ratcheter to replace the old or long gone grease. But this is where I am excited to learn from you.
So what you're doing with the switches, let's talk about that because people lose these small parts. So I will loosen that the bottom switch, bottom screw, but then I take the top screw and I keep it in the stack with the nut, but outside of the bracket. So I swing that out of the way, but I keep the screw and nut right there.
I like that because then it's all in one spot.
Yeah.
So not fully disconnecting it?
Well, no, I don't disconnect the wires because you're in the game. I don't take it away from the bracket. I loosen the bottom one so you can swing it, and then I remove the top one, move it, and I keep it right there. Like those parts don't even go into the magnet tray. They stay right there. I like to use a nut driver on the nut, and that kind of keeps it from falling.
Yeah, those are precarious. The correct size is what, a 348 or 352? Do you know the actual pitch?
I'm inclined to say, what is it, 2?
2 is 256.
56. So 48 is probably right, but I don't know. I don't know that there's more than one pitch available even.
This coil isn't unsoldered. Whoops, hold on.
Oh.
We're assuming.
Well, while you're heating up your soldering iron, old school EMs reminded us about the showing the side-by-side of the old coil stop that was messing up the score reel and what a brand new one looks like.
Oh, yeah. We showed that for a second. Maybe you're late for the show.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I will get you. Let's get the crummy one here, especially because we've got better lighting and such now. Which camera are we on? This one?
Yep.
Brand new Gottlieb OEM reproduction score reel coil
really
stop.
See the copper in there. All right.
Right? You see how we've got like 3 very distinct pieces to this, and that's all we can see. I'm assuming that throughout the rest of the can, we've just got more copper plates or whatnot. Here's the super blown out one. Now, this game was from, what, 1973? So, I mean, shucks, this game's almost 50 years old. This may very well be and is most likely the original coil stop. This has taken 50 years of beating, right? So,
wow.
It's this is normal, cool shot, right?
You know, another thing, Kyle, and I didn't get a good look at the machine gunning action, but once it started failing, and it kept getting used, it actually made this worse at a much faster rate.
Oh, sure.
Because instead of being hit, 100 times a game, 1,000 times a game, now it's getting hit multiples of that.
Yep.
You know, it just...
The way that this came to be was, I remember right before I moved to South Carolina, this game was in my league spot. So every week we'd get together and we'd be playing Pinball League, and this was a favorite because it's punishing. And even if you're a good player, it doesn't necessarily reward you because you've got good flipper skills, because it's a crazy layout. Anyways, but I remember we were in a really close finals, and someone pointed out, hey, that 50 points didn't add up right. Right, so the relay was trying to pulse 5 times and score 50 points, and it was messy every single time. And I just didn't think much about it until, you know, I moved here, plugged it in, it still works. Now we're getting around to working on it, but I don't know. I mean, I guess...
You know, we haven't tried scoring 50 points on it, though.
I did.
Oh, okay.
You guys were talking and I watched. I mean, I think I definitely need to look at the switch, but it's not dinging 5 times and scoring 20 points. It's scoring 50 points every time, thankfully. I'm going to need to add more solder because this is really dirty. I guess I have a little flux there, but that's overkill.
I was going to say, you can also just cut that because you're never going to reattach those wires.
No, you're right. But if I can,
I mean, if I were to cut something out of a game, even though I don't know if even if it's a parts game, I think I would have cut the end of each wire instead of that bundle that was cut. I don't know. I would think, oh, I could reuse these wires if I left them.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about is like, it's not ever going to present itself, but since I'm a hoarder, I will just keep some of these wires and maybe one will repeat one day and I'll say, I need this exact yellow and red faded wire.
Yeah.
I also have like really low patience right now, so I think I might just cut them because I don't want to go. Oh, there it goes.
But I mean, the other thing is that there's probably a good coil there.
Yep.
And while I wouldn't want to cut the lugs, taking the wires out of the lugs so that you could use it in a future game is not a bad idea.
Absolutely.
So the score reel I keep kicking around that I used for teaching like this that I can do on a bench.
Yeah.
First of all, it works great because it's been serviced so many times. I may have actually unsoldered all the little bits of wire left at this point, just so that it's nice and clean and kind of nice to show off.
Yeah, I think this might end up being a teaching score reel as well. So we'll see what ends up going up. But now we've got the coil unsoldered. That should be done before this point. It's easier when things aren't flopping around, but I forgot that it was still soldered on. My bad. Now we've got this fun part that's kind of goofy. You got to pull the coil forward, and this is also a lot harder when you're dealing with a melted coil, where the coil and coil sleeve have melted to the plunger and the coil stop in a certain way, and you have to try to break them loose so you can pull this up and out, because you kind of have to pull the coil backwards, right? We're trying to get to the coil, so it kind of comes.
Say if things are melted, you could also remove the nut from the coil stop.
Nice.
Did you just say that, Kyle?
No, I didn't say that, but that saves you a ton of finagling like I just did. We get this out.
If it was melted, yeah.
Now we can take the ratcheter and we pull the ratcheter back because there are two things that center the forward portion of it. We pull it up and out and around everything, and now we've got the ratcheter out.
Cool.
I feel so dirty calling it a ratcheter, but I really enjoy saying ratcheter. So
now
Why does it make you feel dirty?
The plunger should also come free.
It should. I think it's just. I can. Let's see. The plunger rotates, but it's not wanting to let go of the ratcheter. There it goes. Ta-da! This is about as far as you'll ever take it apart. This coil stop looks a whole lot better than the one in my Jack-in-the-Box. It's not as.
Let me focus on it.
Not as beaten.
Twist.
So,
yeah, nice.
I was reminded by the link that was posted for the spring kit for score reels.
Yeah.
We should talk about that one little thing that sort of looks like a switch leaf, but just sits there and prevents the score reel from turning backwards.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll find that it's been bent, and the reason it gets bent is people, while they're working on it, they turn the reel backwards, and it puts pressure on that and it bends. And if it's not there, you don't get good action because when the ratcheter gets pulled in, if the score reel is allowed to turn backwards, it might. So that little tang there prevents it from turning backwards. And when you're servicing, I mean, this one looks straight. When you're servicing the reel, you also want to check on that and make sure it's straight and in the right position. I don't know how to describe the position. You'd have to just look at what's preventing it from turning.
Take a look at the score reel, right? Do you see these little, hold on, let me decrease the brightness a teeny bit. You see these guys? You've got these indentations here.
I mean, they're ratchets.
That
in a
is
way.
what, yeah, this is all ratcheting. That is what that little tang grabs onto and keeps the score reel from backstepping, right? A part of the motion, and when you watch a score reel step, if you do it in real slow motion, right, the thing's going like, it doesn't just cleanly step forward. You'll see them kind of go like backward, forward, and that's because of that motion that David was talking about where the ratcheter is, the force to actually push the score reel into its new position comes from the forward motion of the ratcheter. It goes forward. The coil pulls it backwards, which loads it and gets it ready to spring forward. So if that wasn't there, it could and will spin backwards. So that's why those guys are there. I've also seen people bend these things. I don't know, maybe it is because of that, but I've seen these things all bent out of whack because, someone who thinks they might know what they're doing might think that this is causing tension, maybe. I don't know, just be careful with it.
If you force the score reel to turn in the wrong direction, you'll see how that thing gets bent, and it's probably what you find. Yeah.
When we get it in position, right, if I move it forward, it steps down those ramps and I can hear it click, click, but there you're resting this. I don't even know how thick that is. It's teeny on this teeny little step inside the score reel, right? And that's what's keeping it in place. So if you really push it, it's going to compress this thing and bend it up and twist it all weird.
No.
So don't do that. Okay.
Nice.
Where do we start? I want to put grease
Kyle?
underneath the ratcheter, but
So there's a question in the chat about why they moved away from the flat surfaces on the score reel. I don't know the answer.
I don't either.
I'm going to assume it was cheaper to make a round one. But I don't know. I don't think there's a functional difference.
Yeah, I don't think there is
Cheaper
either.
certainly a reason they make a lot of changes.
It's funny though because it's like they already had a tool for this, so but I guess that's the only reason I couldn't think that it was cheaper, because you'd have to make a new tool, but
Maybe the tool broke.
there you go. They don't want that tool anymore. Okay. At this point, David, I would be inclined to add a little bit of grease where the ratcheter slides, but I want you to instruct me.
So at this point, this is where I clean everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, clean. That's
So
nice.
I'm going to use a solvent. I don't know what you've got there.
This
But this is the point where I want to do all the cleaning.
This does not have any grease. It is just dusty and rusty. There is zero goop on this thing whatsoever.
Right. I actually clean all the parts at this point, not just the step you're at. So, because once I've got my solvent out and I've got my everything,
Yeah,
if you
the
want to do
reel,
it in different order, that's
that
okay.
thing.
But once we start assembling, you're going to be holding some things together. You want to at least get, like, yeah, I mean, that could be done last, but we could go ahead.
What were
and
you
clean that.
using to clean that, Kyle? That corrosion?
Purple Scotch-Brite pad.
With nothing on it.
Oh no, yeah. I'm just trying to get the corrosion and nastiness off right now.
So, and you say that the wiper disc had no grease on it or anything?
No, it's grody.
So on a wiper disc like that, I'll usually use some sort of solvent to get all the old grease up. Then I'll use the scrubby pad to get down to good clean metal. And then I do one more quick wipe with a solvent, or just even reuse that same rag. But there's all these little metal filings on it after
Steve, would you mind getting me a paper towel?
You don't want to leave it sort of sandpapering itself, right?
Yep.
So you want to clean off all the little filings you took off of it.
I have some denatured alcohol. I'm going to use that.
Right, and what Kyle's doing is also exactly right, of course. You don't need to scrub all the traces. You just need to scrub where it gets wiped. So I know some people like to have the inside of their game pristine, so you can clean more, but I know Kyle and I are generally cleaning what matters. So.
Yeah, I'm a function over form kind of person almost 100% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I will clean beyond the necessary for function to make it comfortable to work on and comfortable for the next person to service. So if it's so gross you can't even work on it without feeling that, then I'm quite happy to clean beyond that so that it's comfortable to maintain on location.
Absolutely.
Where it's possibly harder to clean at that point. You know, this is the good opportunity to clean things.
Yeah, I think I definitely appreciate it when people like disassemble these entire things and put them in ultrasonic cleaners and stuff, but man, I don't have time for that, and it doesn't really tickle my fancy to know it's all super clean, but I really appreciate people that do that because that's dedication and a lot of time spent.
So I would also now, Kyle, like I would be doing all the other parts that are outside of it. So coil sleeve, plunger, the wiper contacts in particular.
Yep.
What are the other parts that are out of there?
I'm gonna work on trying to get some of this corrosion off of this plunger, but I know that this game lived in Florida. Florida is humid, which is why there is a little bit of pitting, but you can see there's a very clean line between where the pitting is and where it is not on this plunger. And this is the only bit that's ever exposed when it's at rest. So I'm going to work on trying to cut it down, but it's not that big of a deal. To me, this is a teaching game, teaching unit anyways, so. Got all that junk off. If yours was really pitted, way more pitted than this, I mean, I'd replace it, but...
So that one is good.
This is fine. This would run in the game, too. I'm sure it's just fine. But for a teaching unit like this, something that I'll take apart, it's more than fine. We'll clean the contacts on this wiper. I'm just going to use my scrubby pad and not put a lot of pressure on it so you don't bend and change the tension that this thing will put.
Oh, you know what else I clean here? The ratchet itself, and of course we'll get to the reel. So the ratchet itself, I get all the old grease off. I want that plastic part to be in good shape.
This is insane because it has no grease on it. It is either so done and dried up, or someone has removed the grease already, which I doubt. It is so bone dry and clean. It's insane.
I'm not sure what the factory did. I've seen a lot of them that are greased. I grease these surfaces. I realize it's plastic. I grease it just to reduce wear. And hopefully in a few decades, I'm learning that the grease I'm using is not impregnating the plastic and making it swell. That's the concern about lubricating plastic.
Yeah.
That if it absorbs that lubricant, it can swell up.
Roller Pinball asked if you should remove the rust.
It's the only thing holding the game together.
Yeah.
yes. Rust. I guess the question is rust from which part? I tend to want to remove the rust, but we looked at that spring. The spring was rusty. If it's still a working spring, I don't try to remove the rust.
Yeah, I mean, if this was my game and this is what the spring looked like,
yeah,
I mean,
right?
I might replace it.
Don't you want to?
But at the end of the day, you're never going to see it again because you're going to service the score reel, right? This spring is still good. You're going to service it. You're going to put it back in, and it's going to work for the rest of the time you own the game. Do you want to spend time, or money? It's fine. It's whatever you want to do. Yeah. But to me,
I mean, you could run a wire brush on that, or you could do a little bit with the scrubby pad. But
yeah.
So the rust won't mess it up.
No, it's holding the spring together.
I don't know if we leave the rust there, does it tend to rust more? I don't know. If we leave the rust there, does that protect it from rusting more? I don't know. I've heard people talk about sort of a little oil or grease on metal parts like that. It will actually prevent it from rusting. That spring, like a torsion spring. So if we were working on a stepper, a torsion spring that's going to do some twisting, I'm going to try and get on camera here, that's going to do twisting like this, if you lubricate that spring, it works better because the edges of the spring are rubbing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't focus a lot on that. I'm not going to try and get my springs bone dry because it's actually good for the spring to have that kind of spring to have a lubricant on it. And an oil on a spring like that will protect it from rusting.
Nice.
This is all just the plating wearing away, and it's just rusting through. I'm not going to be able to get it off and make it look good, so I'm not really too worried about it.
Yeah.
Looking better already, though.
This is a perfectly fine and serviceable unit at this point. This is not par for the course. It is not as oily and dried up with clumpy grease like a lot of them are. So honestly, a lot of the work is not necessary. A lot of the stuff we'd be doing is not here, unfortunately. But
let's clean the reel.
Oh, I hate doing that. Okay.
Oh yeah, we all want to see how you would clean the reel because that one's very dirty too. And
I'm just gonna honestly, I use spit or I use water, and I just try to rub the dirt off. I've had too many experiences accidentally hitting something with Windex when it might not need Windex, or
the numbers might accidentally come off.
And the numbers just come straight off. So
Yeah,
I am just going to.
The flat.
Yeah, look at that. So there you go.
No, wait,
Oh,
we
shoot.
can't see it.
The dust is
Oh,
holding
right.
the stuff on. The 5 is coming off.
No.
You're okay.
Oh
now.
my gosh.
So-
No. What have you done?
Well, this is why you don't touch this kind of stuff unless you really need to.
Oh my! Look at that.
I've never seen this
Was
happen
that
with just water.
Wait. Was that just water?
Yeah,
And what's the rag?
just a soft napkin.
Oh, brand new paper, brand new. Never used anything else on it.
Yep.
Wow.
He's like, I'm going to the microfiber now.
Well, but this thing
Angle-
could have
angle
also
down,
been
yeah.
in like the sun. Maybe that one was like really, that's the one digit that got a bunch of sun on it and it destroyed it.
5, no.
Let's just see. I mean, it doesn't
Sharpie,
matter.
yeah.
This is
Max
a
says use a
test part,
Sharpie.
right? So if the rest of them come off, I'm not sad. But
Is
un-
it,
I'm
is it
sad.
possible? Is it possible that what you removed was someone else's previous Sharpie?
no, this looks factory. But look, I mean, that 4's coming
Wow.
off too. So
repair?
No. So what do you do? What if
Nothing.
you want nice, clean score rules? What about like a Q-tip around the numbers?
Well, the numbers have dust and dirt on them too. I mean, you
I
want them.
know, but
Yeah. Wow. It is unusual to have the numbers come off that easily, but it is
Yeah.
something you want to test before you do a lot. I've heard people talk about make sure
Oh.
you do the number 1 first because it's the easy one to redraw.
that's a good tip.
yeah,
Good
that is a
Oh,
good
tip
tip.
right there.
So that would
Dang.
just water. A paper towel is going to be more abrasive than something softer.
Yeah, the
my-
microfiber took it off just as easy. So
Yeah, my question about the rag is the one thing to be
Stickers.
sure of. I like to use Windex and I do a test first, but I don't use a rag that isn't clean. Because if I reuse a rag that I used with alcohol or some stronger solvent, now that solvent is in the rag. So
yep.
you started with the
Mm.
brand new clean paper towel or napkin or something. Wow.
Yeah, that destroys. So that's again, it's like I've always teetotaled around not doing anything intense on score reels, and that just goes to show, just water
Well,
can really
but-
destroy stuff too.
But the functional part also has to be cleaned. So the inside ratchet surfaces and the surface that moves that switch, a little wire to the
Yep.
09 switches, that part I clean as well. Now this game probably doesn't have a bunch of old dried up grease there, but that is something I do look at.
Well, that's a part
getting
that
that whole part of it clean.
it's also a part that I mean
Yeah,
can
use
provide
the Care
friction,
Bears
right?
there.
Like if it is dirty, that is a point of contact
Oh
where
yeah.
this rotational unit is dragging on something stationary. So
And I'll also clean in the axle where that post is going to go. If it's not too bad, you can use a Q-tip.
yeah,
If it's bad, it's better
I mean,
to sort of use a solvent.
this thing is so
on
dang
a paper
clean to
towel.
begin with.
that you can run through it because a paper towel is going to be a little more abrasive than a Q-tip would be. And I keep saying solvent. People have different preferences. If you're in a well-ventilated space and you don't do this too often, I like lacquer thinner, but it can really do a number on your respiratory system and your hands. I know people who use mineral spirits. Alcohol is the thing I carry with me because it's easy to carry around and it works pretty well, but it doesn't break down the grease as well as something stronger. Kyle, do you have others?
No, lacquer thinner is what I would normally go to for something like that.
Yeah.
Just because it's a unique or a one one solvent fits all most of the time. But I have some denatured alcohol here, which is kind of almost similar. So.
Yeah.
Okay. In the sake of time, do you think we can get this back together in about 20 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Go.
I'm going to tell you where I would normally grease, and I want you to tell me where I'm wrong, or maybe I shouldn't be doing that. I will put, when we're talking about grease, we are talking about like the teeniest smidgen of grease. Less is always more. I will put a teeny bit on the actual axle, a teeny bit.
Yep.
I will put a teeny bit on the ratcheter here and here, where they run through these centering flanges. Sorry.
Yep, I agree.
I will put some on the back side, focusing on these 3 dots on the ratcheter, because that is where it rides along the surface.
So again, reiterating, only those 3 dots are the contact point. I see so much grease slathered in this area. This is a beautiful design to minimize touching surfaces. Those 3 dots are what touch. Yes.
Wow.
I'll generally put the teeniest amount of grease here on the ramp up, and I will put the teeniest smidgen of grease on some of these little steps. And that is just kind of like the DEF CON way. I will just grease everything that touches. And then also the teeniest smattering of grease around these contact points where the fingers ride. Do you disagree with any of that?
We're in total agreement.
Nice.
Wow, cool. I bet it's
That is
because you've
cool.
probably taught me how to do this many times before. Okay, I'm going to get my grease, shake it up and get the oil and grease to get together. I will use...
You know, when you talked about greasing the little the ratchets on the wheel,
Yes.
you know, we talked about small amounts. And the other thing to remember is the mechanism itself is going to spread it out for you. So you could put a teeny amount on one of those ratchets.
Yeah, just one.
And it'll get spread out. Oh, there's one other spot I would put just a teeny amount of grease, again, just for wear.
Okay.
On the ratchet itself, the teeth.
Ah.
Not the catches, but those little teeth that have to line up just right.
Yeah.
I'll do just a teeny bit there.
Okay, great. I don't think I've ever really, I don't know if I really ever have done that, but that's something we're going to give a shot. So when I do grease, I am using my, so there's, that's the problem with this, is the oil and the grease do tend to separate when they're old. So I try to knead it back together, but at the end of the day, it's just oil. It's not a big deal. I will wipe that up with my designated dirty rag now. I'm going to try to knead it a little bit while it's in here. Sorry. If you were using contact grease or something like that, you wouldn't have to do this, but... Okay. I'm going to try to squeeze out a teeny bit, and I always use my screwdriver as an applicator just because it helps me portion, right? Because we are only using a teeny bit of grease on most of these surfaces. I also don't think it helps that this thing sits in the back of my car a lot of the times.
What grease do you both choose? What are your grease actual product preferences?
I'm buying cheap automotive CV grease. You can get it at a automotive store. I bought some on eBay, on Amazon. It comes, stuff I've bought in the past has come in a little plastic bag. not something you would be carrying it around in. So I move it into a small jar and I carry the jar around. Sometimes I'll use a screwdriver, a bench screwdriver like this if I just have a teeny dab to do. Oftentimes I'm just putting it on my finger because once my finger's all greasy, I can just touch all the things that need grease and they're greased.
Okay.
It doesn't take a lot.
What kind of grease are you using there, Kyle, as far as like brand?
Same thing. CV joint grease.
CV joint grease.
With molybdenum disulfide, the moly.
Oh.
Yeah. I went into the automotive store and I told them I needed constant velocity grease, and they gave me a blank stare. They did not know what I was asking for. And when I said CV grease, he gave me an aisle number. So it's just kind of funny. They didn't even know what CV was.
It's okay.
Old school EMs uses super lube.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I like this stuff because it won't, I mean, super lube I don't think will dry out, but like this stuff lasts a long time. It is rated for things that are much higher pinball usage, right? I'm gonna wipe some of that stuff away. I mean, I guess I kind of want to get most of it back together at this point because I could put the coil back in with this, and then I need to reattach the plunger.
Oh, wow. That super lube pen is cool that we have on our website that Midge just linked to.
Yep. So the common application for that in pinball, other than this, something like this, is using it for spinners. That thing will make your spinners like rip really hard. It's really wonderful.
Oh, cool.
I also want to say, I think that pen is showing oil and not grease.
Well, that's the thing I was going to get into is super lube is a oil. It's not a grease, and there definitely is a difference between oil and grease. So super lube, I think grease definitely sticks around longer than oil would. Sorry? I don't know what lubriplate is.
Lubriplate.
Again, the most common place I use super lube is definitely on spinners. I've never tried to use it on this just because I think grease is a more proper application in this kind of a situation, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, Okay, so we've got that in, and we've got a very gentle glide.
Lubricate grease.
Let's make one thing really clear. The plunger did not get greased or oiled or anything. It is dry. Always.
Never, ever, ever, ever do you apply any grease to your plungers. Ever. There's zero reason to do it. Actually, no. I should apply it here to these teeth. One time a guy brought in a Chicago coin ball bowler, a 6-player one. And Chris sat me down to work on it because he didn't feel like working on it. And dude had sprayed white lithium grease into every single score reel.
Oh, no.
It was like 8+ hours to take every single one of those score reels out, to clean them, to get them to the point where I could start working on the rest of the game. That guy was not happy, but that is a bitchin' game.
Yeah, he sprayed the lithium grease thinking he was saving himself some time, and he probably spent several $100s in service cost to get it out.
It ended up being more than, it definitely was a 4-digit price. Let me just put it that way. But it was a gorgeous game, and ball bowlers are so much more fun than puck bowlers.
How many player ball bowler? How many score reels were there?
16. Well, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
It's usually 6 times 3, I think, is what I want to.
Yeah. There's 6 times 3.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Okay, I'm going to put this spring in here. And now, again, I'm just kind of going slow because normally the first one takes you 30 minutes or something, and then by the time you're done doing all 16 of these in a 4-player game, you've got it down to a science at like 12 minutes a pop or something. But
if I need to go this deep and take the coil out and everything like that, I'm about 22 minutes to get through one.
It is fun to time yourself when you do these things, but this is also not a sport. If you not yet Pinball Olympics.
You could do like the fireman drills, like
if you have to take it apart
do a rebuild
to do it again, there was no point in trying to do it fast, right? We're gonna push this guy back, make sure it's nice and tight while we tighten all these suckers. At this point, I'm going to rotate this guy back around. I'm going to pretend like this is actually something in the game, so I'm going to try to do it right. Got to flop the spring plate back up too. This should be an Olympic. This should be part of the Pinball Olympics,
like
the
a
Pinball
relay
Technician
race.
Olympics.
Let's put that on ESPN.
Put that. I don't know. Maybe we should convince.
Obi says you have to wrestle someone while you try and repair a pinball game.
No, most of the time, man,
So
you're
hard.
wrestling the game. Why do you need to wrestle someone? There's been plenty of instances where I need two hands, but I need the playfield in a certain position, and you hold the game up with like your head or your shoulder while you get both hands in there.
You could do one-handed pinball repair. You could do pinball repair in a room that has a bunch of alligators and snakes in it.
I like the alligator
how
and
about
snake
we do pinball
challenge.
repair in a room that has a bunch of pinball players in it?
Oh
Yeah.
And
It's
they're
a
all
lot harder.
hovering
That's when-
over you.
that's when
David,
Grumpy
and they're
comes
all
out.
asking. They're all asking, "What's that? What's that?
What's wrong with it?"
Yeah, what's going on? Hey, well, no. The fun thing is always when you're working on
gonna
a
be
game and then
fixin'?
someone comes over and tells you
When
that
are we gonna
another
play
game
it?
isn't working. It's like, yeah, chill out, man. Give me a second. Well, I put the grease in the wrong spot. I should have put that on the other side of the teeth because that would have helped me distribute it without me needing to put multiple globs
I
on.
was going to say that is the place where you need to distribute the grease yourself because it's not gonna.
It doesn't rotate fully, right?
Yeah, it doesn't rotate it around enough. And we're almost up to where I get to show you the trick.
The trick. Okay, let me continue. Let me apply grease to the last couple places. So I'm going to, again, we're going to place a very small dablet of grease on the little steps where it ratchets against the score reel. This is mostly oil, so now I'm actually going to dig my screwdriver in here and try to mix up this first section. I think this might be time to retire this tube. It's getting that way. But again, there's only like 3 places you'd ever use grease in a pinball machine, and this is one of them. So
You can use our lubriplate grease that we sell on our website next time.
I'll have to give it a shot. I've never used it before, so I don't want to put like a 100% seal of approval on it, but I think it's probably just fine. Again, I think David's actually hit it on the head, right? The long-term effects of grease on plastic is the scary thing. If me putting this little dab right here of grease, is that going to ruin this thing in the next 40 years? Who knows?
And the idea is you don't need to spread that out because the game will spread it out. So you can save that.
Okay. I think I've got everything that, well, actually I'm going to dab one last little bit onto the contact plate. So this is where I will use my finger. This is too much grease, but I am going to spread it out and then I will wipe away the excess. You can't see it piled up. That's what you're looking for. You're just trying to slick up the contact plate, right?
Nice. Yeah, you can't even tell.
Okay. So I've ensured that this guy's actually in the right spot. David, how do you join the score reel and the plate
so I
to
can't, it looks like your ratchet's kind of holding itself in place there nicely, which is what doesn't usually happen, especially when the thing is hanging out the back of the game.
Yeah.
So what I do is I hold the reel in my left hand.
Okay.
And in my right hand, I'm holding the whole assembly, and my right index finger is pulling the plunger out of the coil. So my right index finger is touching the plunger.
Okay.
Okay, now now you have to make it where the score reel will fit. So you need your whole hand to be to the side. Only your finger is reaching in to get to the plunger.
Okay, I see. So the reason why this is important.
It. Now you're holding pressure against the ratchet, so it's not going to jump out. It's hard to get it. Well, I don't know. The camera's a little delayed here.
Yeah. So yeah, since the actual spinny ratchet bit is holding itself in place, which is bizarre. Yeah, we're pulling the plunger forward because that actually holds this in place.
Right.
It doesn't
that
allow.
Would normally want to jump out on its own.
So now we can press this in around the finger. Oh, gotta watch out for the switches here.
Oh, that poor 5.
Yeah, that really is awesome. That makes a lot of sense.
It's a good example, though.
Right.
I will say the score reels with the flat numbers are the ones where I've seen the numbers most likely to come off.
Yeah, you know what? Call Chris and he'll give you like the list of which ones you can use Windex on, which ones you can use Novus number 1 on, and which one, he knows. Yeah. But he would always laugh at me when I'd sit there and, spit on a paper towel and try to keep it really gentle. Just be like, oh, just use Windex on that one. I'm like, I'm not going to.
I think, Kyle, your responsibility is to determine which beer needs to be consumed before the spit for all the different reels.
He'd love that.
At Chris's shop, usually I'd have a big case of PBR because every time we'd have a party at Chris's shop, someone would bring a giant case of PBR. Everyone would drink everything else but the PBR, and then I'd drink that at lunch sometimes. If you look at the actual contact plate, look at the top next to the finger. I'll line it up over something black. Do you see that small dimple?
Yes.
That small dimple lines up with the small dimple between the 5 and the 4. Every single Gottlieb score reel. Do you see that right there?
No. Where's the 5 and oh wow. That's super tiny.
Yeah. So every single one is like that. You apply it like that in every instance.
Can you show the overhead or how you put that on? Okay. And it's right over for the 5 and 4. Okay.
Now, hopefully, this thing will spin once we get it back together. Put the E-clip side on first because that holds the whole thing together since it is under a bit of spring tension. We're going to tack these screws in, and we're going to see if this thing kind of has come back to life. It would be really fun if it did, because then we've done 2 successful things in one stream. It's like Twilight Zone.
And finished on time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Right. Also, here's to hoping that the...
This is a money shot.
Almost. It's a little grumpy, but let's work the grease in, right?
Grumpy.
It doesn't feel perfect, but I also want to check the adjustment of the switches. Oh, now it's better because we've worked the grease in.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Do you like me faking that I'm watching Kyle?
I noticed that, and I love it.
Is that good? Is that working for everybody?
You're looking up at him.
I'm just staring at the ceiling.
I know. I want to do it too. Wait.
So I think this score reel actually does have the switches in the position where this switch here is the 9 switch. I didn't adjust them, and I'm not going to mess with them, but anyways. Yeah, it steps nicely. You'll notice sometimes you'll get a score reel where you do it and it steps great for 8 positions, except for when you get to this one where it has to go to 9. It didn't click into position. That's pretty normal.
Oh, no.
That, I think, David, I don't know if you agree, but sometimes that's when you have to start really micro-adjusting these switches to make sure that they're not putting unnecessary pressure.
Yeah, if everything is serviced and it's working nice, but the 9 is your problem, you spend a lot of time looking at these switches and it's not just the 9 switch. The pressure on that wire from the other switches is also a factor, and you're often balancing, what does open mean? But you spend a little time with those 3 switches, and eventually you've got a nice balance point, and things are opening and closing as they need to, they're wiping as they need to, and the score reel is turning.
That's it.
Awesome.
So this one, again, since I don't actually know the proper order of these switches, I'm not going to mess with it. But, a good way that I always test steppers, and I think David will agree here too, is let the spring do all the work, right? In reality, when this coil is pulsed, it's very violently driven back and then let go, have it come forward, right? When I do a stepper test, I'll draw it back all the way and then gently let go. And if the spring is able to work the stepper perfectly without, the violent forward and backwards, that's when you know you've got it right. And it's still, the only thing it's really catching up on is the 9. So if we did some gentle adjustments to these switches, it would be a perfect score reel. So good job. Thank you, David.
Yay.
You are welcome.
We kick butt. So, hey, Emoto, when you go back and edit this, can you remove the question mark from the title, since now we're very confident that no.
I was confident before, and then Kyle was like, no, there needs to be a question mark just in case.
I am very aware.
Re-editing anyway.
I think the question mark belongs there. We went into today unsure, and
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that it turned out to be the coil stuff.
That's awesome.
I'm thrilled that Emoto has so much confidence in me, because I have no confidence in myself
He was
whatsoever.
like, I don't know if we're going to fix it. I'm like, you're fixing it. We need that shot.
Yeah, you can't go into it with that mentality, though, because then you'll get to, your brain will get transfixed on that one thing not fixing the problem.
That's why we all make a great team together.
That's right.
So.
No, I did have other ideas as a follow-up. We were going to, I thought about, what if it isn't the coil stop? What else are we going to try? And we would end up eventually replacing everything. So we wouldn't have had time to do this other score reel thing. We would have gotten
it. Would have been a good learning experience too.
Yeah. 2 hours should be plenty of time to rebuild a stepper multiple times. If we had a short in the game and we were trying to find that short, no guarantees we'd find it in 2 hours. No way.
Yeah.
It takes days sometimes.
That's why we're crazy, because we like these old pinball games.
Yeah, I do like that.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty successful, right? And that's what's fun, because when you get an old Gottlieb game, this is what you have to spend all your time doing at the get-go. Getting your fingers on things and moving things and greasing things and cleaning things, and then you get to move on to the headache-inducing part. But the first couple hours are very enjoyable.
That's awesome. So next week, I will, if we get approved, we will have a new Twitch emote for everyone.
Uh-oh.
That's what I was working on today. I think Obi knew what I was working on, because he
Hey, you know what else is kind of
stole that
funny?
idea from my head.
Our next episode number
I'm not going to tell you what it is, though.
is going to be, we have to make that episode really nice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're going to have a new emote to come with it.
Yeah, it is.
Next week is episode 69.
Yes,
It's the
nice.
episode after 68.
So we need to.
Emote, and what are we gonna work on? Is that why we're working on Baywatch?
I don't know. We need to
Oh
think.
my
We need to
gosh.
think of something nice to work on for episode number 69. So. Okay, we'll see.
Dude, I will chip in. I will buy the color game.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
Sarah Striper, the emotes are if you build up your channel points in Twitch, you can activate them, or if you're a subscriber, and they're just custom emotes. There's Kyle's face. We got this crazy rock star Midge.
Yep.
Always be tightening bent screwdriver.
Yep, that's the best. I like the bent screwdriver.
So we'll have at the minimum one more coming next week, but maybe we'll get another one in there.
How exciting. But yeah, that's how you rebuild a score reel. That's how you...
Oh, okay. Opie has a good idea for next week's content. He said we should have Midge repair a machine in a bikini top for
No, with me in a bikini top. Maybe.
Oh, I was thinking both of y'all in bikini tops working on Baywatch together. David's like, I will be in the chat.
I might not even want to watch that one.
I don't blame you.
Turning off his DVR. It's not recording.
I wouldn't want to watch that either.
But I'll be commenting in the peanut guy.
Oh, okay.
See,
Well,
it'll be both y'all. That's
then I guess we got to do it. All right. Well, shucks. Yeah, we'll work on something nice. With all the beer. Yeah. And you know what? We got to stream this game eventually too. This is a dumb game. It's really fun to play drinking games with. It's been a long time since we've streamed Pinball. The last time I did it was with X-Files in my living room, and that was like 3 months ago.
That's probably time.
Yeah. We should... Yeah, we got to do it.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I just need to gain energy to do it, so... I just hate promising to do it now, because I keep promising and I don't fulfill the promise, so...
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be looking to see who we will raid after this.
Manu.
Is Manu?
David's got to text him. Quick, hit live!
If he's not live on time, he probably has a reason, which is crazy.
Well, our good friend Johnny Demonic.
Oh, that's a good
Is
choice. He hasn't been on in a
playing some
minute.
Tron.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We'll go.
Tron is a great game. Got a cool
He
soundtrack.
rated us the past few times he's been on, so we will share Zillow.
You guys want to watch Steve and I play electromechanical pinball while drinking beer one night? If so,
Yes.
just tell us.
They're
It'll
all
really
waiting.
make us
They've
want to
been
do it.
saying yes for a year.
I
and they're just
know.
waiting.
I'll stop being lazy.
The
I'm sorry.
X-Files stream was a blast. Oh yeah, maybe y'all should do Dial In Simpsons and Turtles and jam and drink beer the rest of the stream.
Turtles is a mess. We're not even touching that one for a minute. Simpsons plays pretty good. We just gotta finish installing the plastic protector or the anti-stucky ball pieces. We can do that one day. I want to play Jungle Princess when we. That game plays real sweet.
Yeah, there you go.
You just got to do that at my house,
Awesome.
and it makes me lazy.
Well, so we don't have a particular announcement of what we're working on next week, but we will have something good for y'all. Thanks everyone for tuning in this week. Don't forget to use the code below PT-Cletus. Although maybe that should have been next week's code.
Oh yeah, give the Discord link.
Yeah, you want the Discord link? Let's get more
Yeah,
people
and everyone,
into
please,
our Discord chat.
Please give a round of applause to our wonderful helper and friend, David, for joining us and helping us
Yay.
do all this, giving us the
Thank
right
you.
information.
Thank you.
It's really
He came in
wonderful.
with a wig on, and he got so comfortable, he ripped it all off.
Well, now that his advice and his direction worked, he doesn't need to be in the witness protection program, right?
Yeah, just in case people missed it.
There it goes. Hey!
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so silly.
I love it. All right, I have the Discord link now. Dropping this into the chat.
And there we go.
Cool. All right, there's the link if anyone wants to join it. Oh, did you rate us?
Too late. Yeah.
Yeah, you rated.
I did? I didn't click on it
I
yet.
didn't do it.
I've been
My-
sitting
Oh,
here.
My stream has already switched over.
All right, well,
monitoring.
for those
So.
watching on YouTube and Facebook, goodbye.
Oh.
We'll see you next week. Thank you,
Right.
David, for joining us.
Bye.
It was-
Yeah.